Well, hey folks, Steve here with another Dark Summer video. Good news, my counter clipper is replaced by a new one and works just fine. I've clipped the rest of the game, so no interruptions for that. All my corners are nice and rounded and all good to go. Now I'm going to probably keep my old one, and yeah, folks have recommended, fixing it, or there are ways to fix it. So I'm going to hold on to my old one, and I will look into actually doing the work to fix it and taking it apart and do the whole thing. But that's kind of a time commitment that is more work than fun for me at the moment. So it takes a bit of a back burner. So I have a new clipper that will work for me for any other clipping needs for the time being. And then once I get that one fixed, then the fixed one can sort of operate as a backup. So I'll be in good shape for redundancy's sake. Um, so anyway, back to the action here, right? We're gonna do turn 7. I think if I can move quickly enough on camera and I don't ramble as much, we might even be able to fit turn 8 in this video. And if you're reading the video title, you will know better than I will as of this recording, if I got to turn 8 or not. Then you could see, if we get through turn 7 and 8 here, then one more video for turns 9 and 10. And that should bring us to the end of the game, or we'll have a pretty good idea what the game situation will be like. So we'll get things underway. I sort of got through a lot of the introductory stuff of the turn in the last video. So we are dealing with a cloud turn, which is quite good for the allies. I already did the replacements and took care of that. And I've got the cup loaded up. The Germans have one reaction to use this turn, and then the Allies picked an American combat to start the turn because they're already up on the front line with the Germans. So for them, it just makes sense to try to hit the Germans, and they are operating this shit as a prepared offensive. So we're going to get some bonus to our attacks for that reason. And then, really the other thing that really makes this a significant turn for the Allies is that the Allies have a lot of air that they can be looking to use. So where the Germans don't get access to their artillery, I think they still get access to their assault gun and their Nebelwerfer, but I'll double check the rules for that as we go. But the Allies have their tank destroyers, their tactical bombers, their carpet bombing. They each have a carpet bombing left. Might be have to pick a time where it makes sense to try to do that, to knock something loose. Right, makes sense. So all of that put together, I think the Americans have a strong possibility of hitting that strong German line, and maybe we're going to get fortunate enough to bust something open enough that we can surge through, or at least make it an untenable situation for the Germans and allow us to get closer to Brittany. I'm a little worried that we're not going to get down to Brittany this game. I don't know if that's a real fear, but we're going to try to make this a good one. And having this prepared offensive as the first chit just means that we start off really good at the very, very beginning of the turn, and the Germans are going to have really not a lot of options to stop whatever breakout we may have caused. And the Allies are just, the Americans are going to have multiple movement chits here that they're going to be able to use to really work their way down and be in a pretty good game position. So I think that's where we're going to be in good shape as the Allies, hoping for the best there. The British are doing well, but they kind of need a movement to occur to really be in better shape. They have kind of limited attack. So I was debating, do I move the British? But I really want to do something so that if the chits go the Allies' way, it would be, this combat, then a British move, or, the Germans are going to do something with their reaction maybe, but then we get things in a nice clean order that allows us to really break down what the Germans can do. Anyway, okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take care of the combats off camera. We're going to see the end results, and then we'll start pulling from the cup. Okay, here we are after the American combat round and the German reaction. So you can see we pushed the Germans back here. We pushed them back and hurt them here. It couldn't I couldn't quite do everything that I wanted here. They're just the combat arts just weren't good enough. Um, I guess there's one attack that I was maybe debating on, which was like right here. Then oh, that's 2-1, so we'll try it. Oh, I got okay. That's actually pretty bloody, actually. So that's really unfortunate. It's actually not a good result. So these German units are destroyed, but these American units are likewise well beat up, which is a real shame. Not much point in advancing. So that was kind of rough. This actually provides the Germans an opportunity to try some sort of counterattack there, but here the situation was such that this guy was surrounded, so I reacted to pull emergency withdraw him out so that he can hold. I didn't want to just try to move him. Like we could have figured out some other way maybe to cover this line, but these guys would have been toast eventually, and he needs to guard the major road path. So that seemed to be the best option I could take. This attack was probably dumb of me to try. I guess that was dumb as the Americans, but oh well. Sort of did things out of order there, and allowing the Americans an attack. But I'll allow it for myself. I don't think it would have changed my decision making on the reaction anyway. Okay, going to the cup. We'll see what we get next, and we do get British moves. So this is really what we wanted. The British only get one reinforcement, which is a tank brigade. So we'll just plop him down. Oh, don't know where it matters. Just stick him right here. And then we will do British movement. Okay, here we are after the British move. Nothing too crazy. You can see just sort of moving up to the front line, getting situated. British definitely looking to make use of some powerful attacks on their first combat to hopefully do the same. You know, these cloud turns and sun turns are really important for that prepared offensive. So British are hoping for that. We're going to go to the cup and we'll see what we get. I think the Germans are hoping to get a movement or something to figure out a better way through the situation. But we get the British combat. And again, I think they're going to go ahead and make this a prepared combat. So, or prepared offensive, rather. So, shift to the right. And I should mention, in the American combat round, we used our last carpet bombing as the Americans. The British still have one more carpet bombing. This might be a good turn to do it, just to kind of help cause some major problems for the Germans. I just got to pick the right spot to do it in. I've got one in mind. I think this might be a good place because this is going to break open the major road line south of the British position. So if they hit here with everything they've got, that's going to be, I think, a key thing to try for. So I'll do the combats off camera. We'll see the results, and we'll see what happens next. Well, the comments made about me putting too many forces against the Americans are starting to kind of show itself as a mistake. I have seen entire divisions of Germans just disintegrate. Now, granted, I rolled pretty good most of the time, and you can see, I mean, here's a hole. Here's a hole. This guy's in big trouble. This guy's in big trouble. This guy's in big trouble. This whole sector along this major road has more or less been blown open. And so we are looking at a catastrophically bad situation. Now, the thing is, even if I had a German reaction ship, one reaction probably wouldn't be enough to save the world anyway. I mean, even if these guys pulled back and try to hold some line, there'd still be gaps, at least one hex gap that could be exploited. So um, I would say this is a very tough situation for the Germans. So for I don't know, I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, maybe the Americans aren't going to get into the Brittany box, but maybe it's not going to matter because the British are going to shut down the Germans really hard, and that's just going to be that. I don't know. So we'll go to the cup and we'll see what we get. And we get British move again. Go figure. Now here would be a case where, yeah, I do think the full movement is probably what's needed because we're just going to punish the Germans now. This is going to be really gnarly. Now I thought about like, okay, maybe everyone moves a hex and attacks again, but no. Now is the time that we totally just cause massive grief for the Germans and totally outmaneuver them and cut this whole thing. Because here's the funny thing. You could have these guys go, what would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we'd be up over here. Trying to see if there's any faster way to do what I just described. But I think that's as fast as it's going to go. Similarly, down here, these guys go, or even these guys choose to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They shut off this reinforcement zone. Now this is pretty exposed. There are S reinforcements of the Germans that would come up and possibly shut that down. But I mean, it's kind of at the point where like these guys can entertain the idea of coming down and just holding these critical road junctions, and the Germans are going to have a hard time dealing with that. So this is an important move for the British. I have to think really carefully about like where I choose to go. There are still SS divisions that could pose problems if we spread out too much. We could allow a sneaky German to try to race towards the beachhead. I'm not sure that is actually likely to occur, but it's conceivable. So I need to think through how they're going to operate, but we'll show the results here in a minute. Okay, here we are. So I kept in mind that because it is a cloud turn, that the Germans can't use road movement. So in a lot of places, they're just really screwed, which has allowed me to kind of fan out a little bit. And I sent a bunch of guys, kind of ignoring the fact that it'll be hard to like reconfigure the division. But I raced down here and we shut that down. We've got Domfront occupied. We have this juncture at Fliers occupied, as well as this road junction. And we've effectively now split the map. The British have split the map. The Germans really can't get back over here swiftly, at least for the rest of this turn. So we are now, I mean, the problem with the British is they are not allowed to go over here at all, no matter what. The Americans eventually can come east, but the British can never go west. So we can kind of only do this, like this is the best that we've got, which means they can't just like encircle these guys. But still, these Germans are going to very quickly find that they're not getting a whole lot of help. We can shut this down too, potentially, and so it just leaves this as like their one supply source, and I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about that, but as the allies. But over here we have remnant SS units surrounded, very little in the way of Germans. These German units over here are better at defense than offense. They have really limited capability to hit back. So right now it's just looking pretty great for the British. I mean, they've done very well this game, but some of that has to do with the fact that I overcompensated defending against the Americans, which I guess I underestimated the British in this case. They do have strong divisions that are capable of walloping the Germans. So there you go. So that's it for the British move, and we'll see what can be done with the German action, assuming we get one. If we look at the cup, the Americans still actually have a lot to go. The British are almost done with their actions, and we pull the German move or combat. I think move is the operative thing to do here. I'll roll for the reinforcements. 3, that is 3 divisions that come on, mostly weak infantry, but we do get a Kampfgruppen division. So, well, we'll figure out what we can do here. Think with 1 division, we've got to come over here and try to slow the guys down. We can come over here to try to slow the guys down. And then our Kampfgruppen is an S reinforcement. And I think maybe we come in over here, and then we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That wouldn't really 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that wouldn't. We would contest the space, which maybe is the best that we can do. So I don't know. It's like I'd rather bring them up over here. That at least enables us to pull them off to the east if we wanted to. And this is going to get to the point where we, as the Germans, need to decide, like, what are we going to do? Like, when do you start pulling units off the map? Because it's eventually going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to do much more. And what we don't want to have happen, as I look at this, is like, you don't want to have no supply German units on the map at any point up to the end of turn 9. So, like, we're really going to have some issues here, right? Really going to have some issues. If I look at the supply rolls, this is, I think, what's really going to matter for the Germans right now. All S-lettered hexes stop being supply sources once the first U.S. unit in Brittany re-enters the map through any S-lettered hex. And we would probably choose Alencon for that, just to screw the Germans over as much as possible. So I do think it's like if we keep the Germans from getting to Brittany, I think that helps us, right? Or we stop the Americans from getting to Brittany. Technically, the Germans are still getting supply through here and here, so it's like, do you send these guys that just came in reinforcements? Do you just send them off the map to try to get victory points? Maybe not yet. Is that the thinking? Because the closer we get to the British, they're probably just going to get mangled, right? They're just going to get surrounded and mangled by the British. So do they even try? Or do they maybe set up a short line here and just try to hold on long enough before they retreat off? Is that what you do? And that's what I'm not sure about. Like, to me, it's like that. Maybe that's part of the problem, right? It's like it's a tough decision you got to pick. I can't understand if there's a really good way to do this. Now, if you look here, like, you can trace supply through here, right? The Germans can. So these guys are technically, they don't really have a problem yet. But as this starts to come over and around, then it becomes a problem. But the Americans still need to get down here. I would love if the British could just go zoop, and then that's it. These guys are effed, but we're not allowed. We're not allowed to do that. A frustrating thing given the game position, but that's what it is. So instead, the British have to be thinking, how can we, continue to operate coherently over here? So yeah, I don't know. It's difficult situation. But with the German movement, let me take care of that, and we'll see what can be done. We're going to have some problems because we can't necessarily do emergency withdrawals very well. In some spaces we still can, but it's going to be tough going. Over here, I made it so there's just no way that they can, so they're going to end up having problems no matter what. So we'll see what they can do. Okay, here we are through the German move. So we've retracted a little bit here just to try to get some space because we have to kind of shift over to holding some line here. So if I just, I don't know how much the Germans knew this or not, but if I don't think the British can just fly on over here, then it's okay for me to stop short here in my defense against the Americans. Is it a little bit gamey? I don't know, maybe. But the Germans are going to hold their positions, right? So they're going to hold against the Americans here. They're going to continue to do that as best they can. If it looks like they have a chance to spring across here and try to break through, they'll look to do that. Otherwise, the Germans have created a sort of fallback position here where we are at least, while not fully covering all the Zocs, we have something resembling, you can almost see a line there. We need more reinforcements. We need to get stuff fixed. And once these British clean these guys up, it's going to be real nasty. But, that's going to be a part of it. It's like if we keep the Germans from being able to come to the East box, they may get some of these guys off the East box. I'm not sure how many victory points that will ultimately be. We may simply get to the point where, the Germans are going to have no choice but to be defeated, I guess, right? I don't know. It's kind of weird. We're getting to this weird point in the game where, like, yeah, we're reaching an extreme circumstance where I'm cutting the game board in twain, and what effects that has on what the Germans can even decide to do, right? I don't know. So going back to the cup, and we'll see what we get. I'm expecting an American shit, and there it is. So I think Americans are going to do movement. I think we're going to roll, and we're going to get all of the reinforcements. Let's see, these guys are the fastest movers from here. Over here. These guys can go here. That's fine. It's kind of getting to the point where wherever the Americans get their reinforcements, really any of the Allies, it's hard to get them down here. But okay, so we're going to take care of the movement, and we'll figure out what's what. Okay, here we are with the American move. You can see we're obviously seeing a little bit of a bulge here that these guys are getting supplied just right through these hexes. So obviously the Americans would just love to capture those guys. And as I'm playing through, I'm trying to keep in mind that the Allies get victory points for getting divisions off to the east map box. And what I'm trying to figure out is how is this going to really play out? If I have a division that is missing a unit, I don't get the victory points, is what I remember reading in the rules here, and I'm trying to look up and verify. So if one unit in a division is eliminated, that division cannot score VPs. So what that really means for the Americans and the British right now is like, the British don't have this problem. Okay, the entire 9th Infantry Division was destroys the Americans. The second armor is missing a unit, so the second armor cannot get us victory points, and the first infantry division of the Americans cannot get us victory points. So, I'm just going to look to see, where it makes sense to take a loss. If it really matters for eliminating a unit, I'm going to prioritize the second armor and the first infantry. But I have to keep that in mind. So, like, where I'm fighting and I start to have really reduced units, I got to be careful. If I want those units to count for victory points, I need to give them some level of relief and get them out of the hairy spots. So I don't know if you look at that as sort of like a morale mechanic a little bit, like an informal morale mechanic, but I got to keep that in mind. I can't just go, willy-nilly with everybody all the time. But, we're starting to see the Germans just get worn down, so we'll see what happens here. I'm sure the Americans would love a combat ship right now, but we'll see what we pull out of the cup. And we do get American combat. What do you got? There we go. So it's getting down to the wire. So I do think we want combat for sure. And let's see, where are some obvious places for some nasty combats? I think here, maybe around here, possibly here, here, whoops. Here, I mean, well, we'll see. We'll see where we're at. And I'm going to have to rewatch my footage to see what steps those guys are at. But yeah, so American combat, they've got plenty of air power to use. The Germans don't have much in terms of their assets left. I think I avoided using their Nebelwerfer for just this purpose, in case there were more bad combats. So we'll have to see. You can imagine, right? Like, if the Americans bust up this unit, then they've got this nice lane they can start operating down to get to Brittany, or cutting the rest of these guys out of supply, causing enormous attrition problems. So yeah, I'm going to go take care of these combats and we'll figure out what's what. Okay, here we are after the American combat. You can see we're kind of snaking around. Had forced some guys back on the far west over here because they were in clear terrain. I left them in clear terrain. I guess it wasn't the best decision. I overlooked it. So these guys had less defense. They got pushed back with the DR Star. So we're kind of creeping around the coast. We're surrounding Saint-Lô again, and are pushing basically everybody back. So I think it was a pretty good combat turn. We did end up with like an AL1 in some places, and different things going on, but overall it was pretty good. I mean, we're entering a stage of the game where the Americans basically have some momentum going now, and they can start to push the Germans back and across and smash them. And I think it's just one of those things in this system where, like, the Germans don't get a lot of replacements. They're not getting as many reinforcements, that once they start getting brittle, they really start to collapse. So I think the Allies are really hoping that occurs here. We go to the cup and we'll pull and see what we get. And we get the German second movement that they for sure need. So let's see, what can we do to salvage this situation, guys? I don't know. We'll see when we come back. Okay, here's the German movement. Not much, right? We sort of moved back a little bit. In fact, I'm going to sweep these guys back a little bit as well. What we don't want to do is leave any unit in a position where it can be cut out of supply and surrounded by Zoc. So anytime there's something like sticking out here where it's possible for a unit to just move up and have it be surrounded by Zocs, we need to pull back. And I made a mistake not doing that over here earlier as the Germans, where we had an SS division that, because we were poking behind these guys with Zocs, he got attacked, forced to retreat. Well, he couldn't retreat. Now, in some dark games or Ted Racer games, if you retreat through a Zoc, you take a step loss. But in this game, if you retreat through a Zoc, you're just eliminated. So I sort of forgot that, and there were some German units that really didn't have a choice. They had to go through a Zoc and were eliminated. So I think maneuver really is a super important part of this game. where, you know, maybe in others, like if you retreat through a Zoc and you take a step loss on a unit, like, okay, not the worst thing that can happen, you don't like it. Here, I mean, it doesn't matter if you have a full strength, full division. If they get scattered, you know, if they lose, you get a retreat, right? They get forced back. They get shattered going through that Zoc. There's no survivability. So there's that brittleness that you have to watch out for. And at this point, I'm not sure that the Germans really have. Well, I guess there's one thing, you know, the Germans could try to do. Germans could try to do the same thing over here. They could try to force a retreat on these guys, but I don't think it's worth it because they spread out too weakly, and you got to keep in mind the attackers are getting another shift to the left because of the Allied air power. So we just don't have a lot of options as the Germans. I could see this being a major issue for them. We'll go to the cup again. There's one chit of each faction in the cup, oddly enough. And we get the German combat. So is there really anywhere that the Germans want to have combat? I don't think so. Well, what they could try to do is break out over here, but it would be 4-3, so 1-1, and then it'd be 1-2. I don't know. Is that worth it? Is it worth a shot to try to break out? I mean, I think they should try because they desperately need these units. So if this guy tried to attack here, well, okay, let's think about this for a second. Halved because they're out of supply. So 4-3 is 1-1. And then you have one shift to the left and then another shift to the left. You know, one for the bocage for the Allies and one for the Allied air power. You have a 1 in 6 chance of retreating. Otherwise, you're going to take a step loss, which will guarantee that these guys get eliminated in the attrition phase. I don't know. I'm not sure it's worth it. I really don't. And the Allies still have their tactical air to use as well. So that would actually make it even worse. So yeah, we can't even bother to break out. Honestly, we could maybe even try here. That would be 3-1, which would be down to 2-1. This one's a little more realistic. Or I'm sorry, that's 9-6. So 1-1, down to 1-2, and if they threw air power in, still be 1-2. That one's a little bit easier, so maybe we'll try this one. And I knock over a bunch of stuff and we get a no effect anyway. Great. Oh well. I think I restored these guys appropriately. I could be wrong. Might have messed that up. I should stop rolling onto my counters. Gosh darn it. But that failed with a no result. So there you go, guys. That's great. Great. Really would not have been any point in trying to attack here. It would have been 2-1. And then shift all the way down. And yeah, that wouldn't have been worth it. Well, I don't know. Let's say we had done that move, right? What would we be doing? They'd be defending at 4. We would be attacking with 8. 8-4, 2-1, 3 shifts, comes to 1-3. On a 1 in 6 chance, we would eliminate these guys. But otherwise we'd take 1 step loss, which maybe isn't so bad. Maybe that's worth it. Let's go ahead and try it. Why not? And we get a no result as well. So there you go. There's apparently a helicopter somewhere above my house. Okay. It's a close helicopter. Okay, we're gonna pull the next chit, and we're gonna see what happens. It is the British combat chit, so there you go. Let's see what we do with that. Probably not a whole lot, actually. We're not in a good combat position. I can't really attack with these guys, so I do have to move somebody over here at some point soon. But I do think we're going to try to inflict some step losses here so that we eliminate those units and have a free reign going into next turn. So we'll see what that looks like. Okay, here we are after the British combat. So they did force a retreat here and eliminated that one unit. These guys got a BL1, so this concentrated attack. But those units that are in that encirclement are basically all one-step units, and I believe when we go to a attrit, they will simply vanish. So, and then here we had a retreat. So I was trying to figure out, is there anything else that I could really do right now? And I don't see any obvious places. So I think that's it for that. And so now it's going to come down to the last American chit, which at this point has to be a movement. And I think the movement's going to be some pretty straightforward stuff. These guys are hanging back to make sure that they attrit. Yeah, because the Zocs are what keep these guys locked in. But these guys can definitely do movement. I'm just going to do it off camera, but we'll close up the turn here in a second. Okay, so here we are after the American movement. So I think that's it for the turn. There's no more chits in the cup. That's all she wrote. Now, a couple of things that are important here. So we look to do the attrition phase. So German player does this every turn. The Allied player does this only on rain or storm turns. So these guys that are over here are actually fine on the far right of the screen. These guys are fine for the moment. They have enough supply on them. But units that are out of supply lose one step. So as we look around the map and we see who's out of supply, these guys are out of supply. They each lose a step. They only have one step left each. They're done. We look here. These guys are done. An entire SS division, the 12th SS division, is eliminated. Everyone else has supply, and it's really not an issue. But you can see advantage definitely to the Allies right now, but the game's not over yet. We still got to accrue victory points, and I think that's where we're going to get into this, like, well, of the reinforcements that will come in still, do those guys just leave the map right away? Is there any other point to that? I'm not sure how this is really going to go, so I'll have to figure it out. I think the Allies do like the idea of wearing out the Germans to where there's only a few steps left, and if they can knock them out of supply, then they disintegrate, and that will more easily clear off the board and allow them to operate a little more cohesively. So that's it for turn 7. I think we'll go into turn 8, and let's go ahead and see if we can play through the turn and just see what happens. I'll try to be quick and not chatter so much. So we've got a cloud turn left and 2 shower turns. So more likely turn 8 will be a shower turn. We'll see what we get. And indeed, we pull showers. This is important because it means that the Germans will be able to use road movement, and the Allied tactical air can only be used once per turn, and the Germans can counterattack a little more easily. So we'll keep that in mind to see what's going to go on. I do think that the Americans are going to want to do another prepared offensive as the first action of the turn, just to, again, attempt to wallop these guys as hard as they can, and continue to crack the line and do a lot of damage. So we'll consider that, and then otherwise the shower turn has just 2 other US chits in the cup. One is off. Germans will have 2 reaction chits for the turn. I think the British are going to do 2 moves in a combat. And they have 1 off map, and then the Germans get their standard 3. And so, let's see, and then we have replacements. I'll do all of that off camera. But yeah, let me do, here's what I'll do. I'll do the replacements off camera. It's not going to be a big deal. We're just going to try to top off some units that could use some help, that are beat up a little bit, because what really is going to happen, the US gets 1 mech, 1 infantry, the British get 1 armor, and the Germans get 1 infantry. So that's not really a whole lot, right? Like, that's not a lot at all. But then we'll see what else comes out of the woodwork here. And I'll do the prepared offensive. Oh no, I'm sorry, I can't do a prepared offensive. So if they're going to do combat, the Americans are going to do combat, but they're just going to do, it has to be a regular combat. They don't get the prepared combat this turn. So they're going to do combat and try to hurt these guys and let the rest of the chits play out. Because I think as is, the British move could be very powerful here. I guess I need to think about this for a second. The British move could be very powerful, and that matters more right now. So maybe we do need to do British move first. I think that's what. Yeah, I'm going to change my mind. The attack here would be strong, but the Americans have more flexibility. If we screw up what the British do, they don't have as many choices to do cool, good stuff that we would want to do. So I'm going to use this to do movement, and we'll see where the British get to on that. But I will do the replacements first. We come back, we'll see the result. All right, here we are after the British move. You can see we obviously have moved ahead and are resupplying and supporting down here, looking to break through. I actually retracted back because with the road movement being enabled for the Germans, they actually have the capability to try to come up. So to me, it made sense to try to pull back a little bit and just make sure that there's not any like super obvious places the Germans can kind of surround the units where, in fact, I might even pull back to here a little bit, and that'll just keep these guys from being able to zoom up and too easily surround us. But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of tricky. There's still more action to be fought here for all these things to matter. Now, I don't know that there's really a reaction shit to make here. I think if I do, it's going to be to extricate some of these guys to safety. And who do I really think needs to be saved right now? Well, it'd be to save these guys, but to be honest, they're already pretty beat up, and it's not going to take much to knock them out. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to just pick like what's the best move right now. So maybe we'll let the reaction go for the moment and just see what happens. But that's the best we can do. We pulled German move, so it kind of doesn't matter. Definitely going to do movement. We'll roll and get 4 formations, and I think it's 1, 2, 3. So that's enough to get everybody in. These guys are south. These guys are east. So I think it's going to make the most sense that we have them come in here, and what's probably going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as one way to make the situation a little bit harder. And then here, you know, I think we could have it such that these guys end up over here and these guys end up doing something over here. I'm not exactly sure what, but we'll figure that out with the rest of the move. Take that off camera. Okay, here we are after the German movement. It took advantage of them moving back to now create once again a whole line, though there's not a whole lot of not a whole lot to do there. It's kind of very, the line being so long means things are very spread out. We'll go ahead and go to the cup and see what we get. We get German combat or movement. I don't think there's any combat that they want to do, and the movement they want to save for later, so they'll take the combat, but not actually do any combat this turn. And we'll go ahead and pull from the cup again. This time we get British movement, which is not really what they wanted, unfortunately. And I don't want to do a combined move because I want, well, would that help anything? No, not really. So we'll take the full movement, I guess, as the British, but that is not what we really wanted. Oh, by the way, I totally forgot to bring in their reinforcements, but it's mostly some Canadian and Polish, so I guess we should roll for that. Okay, so they would have all come in on the first one. I'll do these reinforcements move, and then they'll move again for this movement. I don't think it would have impacted anything major here. Okay, here we are after British movement. You can see I didn't quite push out to here because it just thins us too much that we leave ourselves susceptible. Now one could say I need to be bold here, but they could very be easily. They need to hold right here because if we screw this up, what could very quickly happen is that the Germans have a route to go do 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 and on up, and we don't want that. But over here, you know, this should be enough to, again, force the Germans down and kind of cut something off there. So is there a need for a German reaction shit right now? I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I mean, if we played a German reaction shit and pulled 84 back like so, that would actually save us a little bit, and then, you know, we've got something to hold on to there. Okay, we'll go to the cup and see what we get. And we get American mover combat. I do think the Americans are going to need to do movement. And this will be a pretty straightforward movement, but we'll take care of that off camera as well. Okay, American move is complete. Bringing reinforcements in. Fast mover was able to get. Actually, French. The French units are on the board. They got down to here with a supporting regiment. There's some special victory points that are reliant on them getting into the eastern box, but right now the Americans kind of aren't allowed to get towards the eastern box. So I'm doing my best to keep these French units near like these west to east major roads so that they are able to do that. It's going to be tough because it's like they're either going to get to the eastern box by going through Brittany and coming back north, or moving along the map to the eastern exit box, and we just haven't seen that occur yet, so I'm not sure how they're going to get, you know, from there to there. Okay, so yeah, you can see we're set up as closely as we can across the board. Really need to get something of a breakthrough here. I don't think the Germans can do much with their reaction right now. They think they're going to save it because we really haven't had as many Allied combats yet. So we'll go to the cup and we'll see what we get. And we pull German move. I think the move is what they're going to want to do. And they're going to probably do some level of full retreat across the line and stick their noses out at the Allies. So we'll see what happens here. The German move is complete. They did a general withdrawal, a contraction of the line. You can see them pulling back a little bit. Things are still, I mean, no matter which way we look at it, it's tenuous. What we try to do is account for the fact that the Allies could do the combined action, but if they can only move one hex, if we move two hexes, we still avoid getting hit. I didn't feel like I could afford to pull back that many hexes everywhere, so there's a couple of places where it just didn't. But I don't think the Allies have enough strength of moving, even where they could move the one hex to do combat to be that bad. So we'll see whether or not that theory proves correct. So we'll pull the next chip from the cup. That's actually the last German action, so they're hoping that that's enough. And we pull American movement or combat. Well, I think they got to do movement, and they're gonna do everything they can to come down. I'm gonna do it real quick off camera. Okay, here we are after the Allied movement. I think at this point the last German reaction chit is going to hold to see how bad these last combats are. Both chits are going to be Allied combats. The order doesn't really matter, but we'll pull it and we get the British combat first. Now this is their first combat, and but it is showers, so no prepared offensive. So there's really not that many options for them. Now, let's see, they could, they could make it a combined. There's going to be some cost to that, but at least it gets them an extra hex forward. And maybe take some pot shots at some stuff. So maybe that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go ahead and have this be a combined action and deal with the consequences of the shift to the left on any combats we decide to do. So let me take myself off camera. We'll move forward a little bit everywhere. We're going to see some combats here, possibly. Up here, obviously, and then, maybe not down around here. But I would like to knock this guy out, and we'll create something of a little breakthrough here that could prove valuable. So yeah, let's take care of that. Okay, here we are after that combined action. You can see the slight movement. We did attack here, and we eliminated a single step unit, which has allowed us to poke our head out a little bit here, and we can entertain the idea of racing behind these guys if we really wanted to. The Germans probably want to react here and try to fix that situation. We had a BL1 result here, which actually took a step off the Polish, which is kind of unfortunate for the Allies. But we can wait because it doesn't really matter. We can, like as the Germans, we can wait to play our reaction chit as the very last chit. That's probably what we're going to do. The last active normal chit is the American combat. So we're going to go ahead and let that occur. The reaction chit will come after, and we'll do our level best to just, what is the most important thing we need to fix right now and try to fix it. So the combats, are going to be pretty straightforward, right? We're probably going to try to attack all across the line if we can and just wear the Germans out wherever possible. The Allies have basically saved all of their air power for this, so it's going to be focused effort trying to smash their way through here. So we'll see what that looks like. Okay, here we are after the American combat. We did force a lot of retreats. We hurt the Germans in various places. We did okay, but still not quite where I think we need to ultimately be. But the important thing is we are wearing down these SS units, where even a BL1 is all right. We'll take it. We unfortunately got a no result here, but that guy could be very quickly surrounded here in the coming turns, so I'm not so worried about it. We even have some opportunities here to snake right around these guys and cause all kinds of havoc on the first turn. But with the German reaction, we pulled these guys out to try to save some units. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think these guys are going to have to generally retreat all the way back and try to get across the Say River here. Because being out here is just going to be no good. They're going to get forced back into the flat terrain where they will get mauled. But that's it for turn 8, guys. So we are going to go into turn 9. We can go ahead and pull the weather chip for that, and we'll see what we get. We pulled a cloud turn, so this is going to be important for the Allies. Not exactly sure what we're going to get as our first initiative chip for turn 9. We'll worry about that in the next video. This video is probably getting pretty long already. Possibly British move would be very valuable and appreciated to start to shut down some of what we have going on. Might not be enough. Maybe an American move is better. There's a lot of possibilities here that are worth looking at. But you got to keep in mind, we kind of know how many chits are left in the game, right? We know that this turn is cloud, the next turn is showers, so we know how many chits each side is going to get. And just based on the way we're looking at it, the last turn is going to be showers, which means that the Germans are going to have a little bit of an advantage. They're going to be able to operate, and if the Americans never get into the Brittany box, they're going to lose some victory points for that. The Germans are probably going to be able to pull some units out at the last second and rack up some victory points. It'll depend on how the chits go, which is going to make these last 2 turns actually really crucial and really interesting, because we're still playing that balance, like, do we go any farther? What do we do on this? And we'll have to take it from there. So thanks for watching, guys. Turn 7 and 8 all the way done. Next video will be the final turns 9 and 10 to get to the end of the game and see where things end up at. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you got comments on the progress, leave those comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. I realized that these guys needed to move, I think, and I didn't get them. I didn't do their second move. I forgot about them completely. So these guys should probably be 1, 3, 4, 5. We'll just put them here for now, and they'll figure out what to do in the next turn. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. See you in the next one. Take care. Keep gaming.